Welcome to the Geostrategic Podcast.
Taiwan is quietly building something that could change the balance of power in the Pacific. By the end of this year, the island could deploy more than 1,400 anti-ship missiles along its coastline, creating what some analysts are calling a missile trap for any invading fleet. But here's the real question. Could this actually stop China's Navy? Today, we're breaking down how Taiwan's new missile network works, why it's being built right now, and whether it could turn the Taiwan Strait into one of the most dangerous waters on Earth. Before we dive in, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone interested in global security and geopolitics. And I'm really curious to hear your take. Do you think this missile buildup can actually deter an invasion, or would it only delay it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. This topic has huge global implications, and I'd love to see what you think.
It really does.
So our core mission for you today is to strip away all the political background noise. We're not here to debate the politics or the history of the region. We want to look exclusively at the geostrategic implications of this massive military buildup detailed in the latest updates. Just the strategic and operational facts.
Right, strictly the tactical reality.
Okay, let's unpack this. The recent data points to a massive strategic shift. Taiwan is aggressively building what defense analysts call a Porcupine Island defense, which to anyone outside military circles, that sounds like a bit of a quirky term.
It does sound a little strange, but it's actually the ultimate application of asymmetric warfare. It's a brutal strategic doctrine when you really look at the math behind it.
How so?
Well, when you are a smaller force facing a much larger military, you don't try to match them ship for ship or fighter jet for fighter jet.
Because that's a losing mathematical equation.
Exactly. Instead, you adopt the strategy of a porcupine. A porcupine doesn't try to overpower a predator, you know. It doesn't try to win a wrestling match. It simply makes itself far too painful, far too costly, and just too difficult to swallow.
Right. If the predator is going to bleed to death just trying to take a bite, it usually decides to go find an easier meal.
Precisely.
And looking at the latest updates, the sheer density of these quills is staggering. By the end of this year, Taiwan will have an inventory of over 1,400 anti-ship missiles.
That is a massive number.
Yeah, that means once this current production phase wraps up, this island will possess the highest density of anti-ship missiles anywhere in the world.
What's fascinating here is why that specific word, density, matters so much strategically. It is not just about having a large stockpile of weapons sitting in a warehouse somewhere.
Right, they aren't just in storage.
No. It is about creating a saturated coastal missile network that is completely designed for deterrence. When you have the highest density of anti-ship missiles on Earth packed into a relatively small geographic coastline, you fundamentally alter the risk calculation for any invading fleet.
Paint a picture of what that actually looks like for a naval commander looking at a map, because to me, a coastline is just a coastline.
Think about it this way. Traditionally, a navy looks for weak points. They look for beaches with less defense or corridors where they can push their ships through safely.
Sure.
But with 1,400 missiles positioned across the island, there are no weak points. You're forcing the adversary's naval planners to look at a map of the Taiwan Strait and realize that every single square mile of ocean approach is covered by overlapping redundant fields of fire.
Wow.
If they manage to take out one missile battery, there are 3 more right behind it that still have their ships locked in.
Overlapping fields of fire, so it's essentially a web.
Yes.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because this arsenal isn't just coming from one place. It's a massive push on 2 very different fronts. Taiwan is building their own, and they are buying from the outside.
Right.
Let's look at the domestic side first, because the manufacturing numbers coming out of the latest updates are pretty wild. I want to understand what exactly is rolling off these assembly lines.
It is a massive industrial undertaking. The National Chung-Shan Institute of Science and Technology is running production lines at an incredible pace. They are cranking out roughly 200 advanced missiles a year.
200 a year?
Yes, which is a very serious industrial benchmark for specialized munitions.
But what kind of missiles are we talking about here? Are these all identical?
Not at all, and the variety is key. They are focusing on the domestically developed Hsiung Feng, or Brave Wind missile series. You have the Hsiung Feng II and the Hsiung. They share a production line and are yielding about 131 missiles annually. Then on a separate track, you have the Hsiung Feng III and its extended range variant. Those are being produced at a rate of around 70 per year. So the target here is that by year's end, Taiwan will possess over 1,000 of these domestically produced missiles alone.
Okay, but hold on. Building 1,000 missiles is great, but won't a massive, modern invading fleet just use electronic warfare to jam their targeting systems before they even launch?
Right.
I mean, we always hear that modern wars are won on computer screens before the shooting even starts.
That is exactly the right question to ask, and it is the exact problem Taiwan's defense ministry is addressing. You have to look past just the sheer production volume. The real geostrategic edge is actually in the upgrades.
Upgrades to the guidance systems.
Yes. The latest new details plans to produce an estimated 232 upgraded units of the Hsiung Feng II and III.
What makes those upgraded units so critical against a modern fleet?
It's all about surviving that invisible fight. Kinetic warfare is the physical stuff. Explosions, metal hitting metal. But electronic warfare is the invisible fight over the airwaves. In any modern conflict, the very first shots fired are electronic. An invading force will try to jam, spoof, and completely blind coastal defense radars. They flood the airwaves with digital noise so the missiles can't see their targets.
Like shining massive flashlight directly into someone's eyes so they can't see where they're walking.
Precisely. But these 232 upgraded units feature vastly improved, hardened chipsets. Those chips act like a highly advanced pair of polarized sunglasses. They filter out all that blinding electronic noise.
Oh, that makes sense. That's just the domestic side of the house. The latest info details that Taiwan is receiving 400 US-supplied land-based Harpoon Block II missiles.
Yes, specifically the RGM-84L4 variant.
Right. And they aren't just shipping over crates of missiles. The news notes they're coming alongside 100 coastal defense systems. But why do they need these if they are already building 1,000 of their own?
Because a coastal defense system isn't just a tube you fire from, it is an entire mobile ecosystem. When you get a coastal defense system, you are getting the radar trucks, the mobile command centers, and the heavy launch vehicles.
Oh, mobility.
Mobility is everything. If you put a missile launcher in a concrete bunker, an invading force knows exactly where it is. They can destroy it with a long-range strike before their ships even get close.
Because it's a static target on a map.
Exactly. But mobile radar trucks and motor launchers are incredibly difficult to preemptively destroy. They use a tactic called shoot and scoot.
Shoot and scoot. Yeah. These massive trucks can hide in coastal forests, under highway overpasses, or deep in urban areas. They drive out, elevate their missile pods, fire at the enemy fleet,
and immediately pack up and drive away.
Right, before the enemy can calculate where the launch came from and fire back.
To put that in perspective for you, imagine trying to find a needle in a haystack. But the needle is moving at 60 miles an hour down a coastal highway, and it is heavily armed.
It's a massive headache.
That is the headache an invading navy is looking at. And the speed of this deployment is pretty aggressive. Looking at the latest updates, the first batch of these U.S. systems began arriving in late 2024. The target is to have 32 of these mobile systems and 128 missiles fully in place by 2026.
And the final goal.
Full delivery of all 100 systems and 400 missiles by 2028.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you start to see the nightmare scenario this creates for an incoming fleet's defense systems.
When you combine those 1,000 domestic Hsiung Feng missiles with the 400 U.S. Harpoons, you aren't just building a wall, you are building a layered saturation attack network.
Okay, layered saturation attack network. That sounds incredibly intimidating. But walk us through what that actually looks like from a strategic standpoint. How does it physically work?
To understand why it's a nightmare, you have to understand how a modern warship defends itself. Imagine the Aegis system on a modern destroyer. It is essentially a floating supercomputer connected to a massive radar dome.
Tracking incoming threats.
Tracking hundreds of them in the blink of an eye. But even a supercomputer has a physical limit. A ship only has so many interceptor missiles in its launch tubes. And its close-in weapon systems, like those massive rotary cannons, can only physically turn and fire so fast.
Right, so a point defense system can only process and engage a specific number of targets at once. It's just a math problem.
Exactly. A saturation attack is designed to exceed that mathematical limit. If a ship can shoot down 40 incoming missiles, you fire 50. But Taiwan's strategy takes it a step further. It is not just a swarm of identical threats. Because they are mixing the domestic Hsiung Fengs with the U.S. Harpoons, they are combining high-capability and low-capability weapons, and more importantly, they are combining fast and slower missiles.
I noticed that in the reports. They specifically highlight the mix of supersonic and subsonic strikes. Why is mixing the speed so devastating?
Because it shatters the fleet's ability to prioritize targets. The Hsiung Feng III is a supersonic missile. It travels at over Mach 2. It comes in incredibly fast from a higher altitude, giving the ship's crew only seconds to react.
And the Harpoons?
The U.S. Harpoons and the Hsiung Feng VI are subsonic. They travel slower, but they are wave skimmers. They fly just feet above the surface of the ocean.
But because the Earth is curved, a radar sitting on a ship can only see so far to the horizon.
That is the radar horizon, exactly. A wave-skimming missile stays hidden behind the curve of the Earth until the very last minute. So imagine you are the defense computer on that ship. If Taiwan launches these missiles in a coordinated strike, the invading Navy is suddenly forced to defend against entirely different attack vectors simultaneously.
At the exact same time?
Yes. The targeting computers have to instantly track and prioritize the supersonic threat screaming in from high above, while at the exact same fraction of a second, a swarm of subsonic threats pops up over the radar horizon right on the deck.
That geometrically complicates the defense.
The computers and the human operators simply get overwhelmed.
That is fascinating. But wait, that means you need absolutely flawless coordination on the launching side. If you have 50 different trucks hiding in forests and cities, how do they time those mixed-speed strikes perfectly so they all arrive at the enemy ship at the exact same second?
You've just hit on the hardest part of this entire doctrine. Having the missiles is one thing. Commanding them is another. To pull off a highly synchronized multi-vector saturation strike from dispersed mobile launchers, you need unified command.
Because if they are disjointed, it doesn't work.
Having different units operating in silos would be a massive strategic vulnerability. That is why the latest news reveals an operational linchpin. In July, the military is establishing a brand new Littoral Combatant Command.
So they're bringing everything under one roof.
Yes. This is the connective tissue of the entire Porcupine Strategy. You have the existing Haifeng brigades, who are highly trained on operating the domestic missiles, and you have these newly forming units that will operate the U.S. Harpoons.
And this new command oversees both.
It integrates all of these anti-ship missiles, all 1,400 plus of them, domestic and foreign, fast and slow, into one single cohesive operational network. The command center can look at the whole battlefield, pick a target, and instantly tell a Harpoon truck in the north and a Hsiung Feng launcher in the south to fire at the exact right moments.
To achieve that perfect saturation strike.
Exactly.
And the ultimate goal of all this integration, all this hardware, this incredible density, both the domestic and US-supplied missiles expanding in parallel are rapidly strengthening Taiwan's land-based anti-ship capabilities to create what officials in the updates describe as a deadly red line.
And that phrase, deadly red line, perfectly encapsulates the strategic intent. It is a mathematical and tactical barrier in the waters of the Pacific that Chinese naval task forces would find exceptionally difficult to cross without accepting catastrophic losses.
Right.
Just to pause here for a moment and speak directly to you, the listener. It is incredibly important to note that our goal in this deep dive is to strictly and objectively map out the tactical and operational realities of this defense strategy.
Absolutely.
We are looking at the math, the hardware, and the geostrategic implications without taking sides or endorsing the geopolitical aims of any nation involved. We are purely analyzing the reality of this rapidly changing tactical environment.
Perfectly aligned with our mission today. We want to give you the exact shape of the board as the pieces are being moved. And as we are coming right up on our time to wrap up here, we need to bring this all together. So what does this all mean?
Well, core takeaway.
Right, distilling it down. Taiwan is fundamentally attempting to alter the mathematical realities of a Pacific conflict. They're shifting away from traditional symmetrical defense strategies. They aren't trying to match an opponent ship for ship.
Exactly.
They're fully embracing an ultra-dense, mathematically overwhelming, asymmetric Porcupine strategy. By combining over 1,000 mixed-speed domestic missiles with 400 highly mobile U.S. systems under one unified command, they are banking on the idea that density and coordinated saturation can outmatch sheer naval tonnage.
This raises an important question, one that goes beyond just the Taiwan Strait. If modern asymmetric networks, using relatively cost-effective mobile launchers, advanced hardened chipsets, and perfectly timed mixed-speed saturation strikes, can turn a coastline into an almost impenetrable deadly red line, Does this mean the era of the massive, expensive naval task force is coming to an end? Are we witnessing a permanent shift where entirely new domains of warfare will have to replace the traditional fleet invasion? It is something for you to deeply consider as these technologies continue to evolve.
That is a phenomenal thought to leave off on. Can a $1 million missile strategy make a $1 billion naval fleet obsolete? It is a question that military planners around the world are losing sleep over right now.
Without a doubt.
Thank you so much to everyone for sharing your time with us today. Whether you are watching the video or listening to the audio, we truly appreciate having you along for this deep dive into the changing face of global security. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want to keep building your geostrategic knowledge, we warmly invite you to listen to our other podcasts. Stay curious, stay informed, and we will catch you on the next one.
Thanks for tuning in.